All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Today we are going to be talking about puppy raising, which is the most exciting topic that people usually come here for. I'm guessing if you're here, you're interested in being a puppy raiser or being a part of a puppy raiser's life. And Alex is going to start us off with what you need to know.
Page. Okay, there we go. Oh wait, no, it skipped 3 like bunch of them. There we go. Okay. So a puppy raiser is somebody who goes through a very long application process after they decide that puppy raising is something that they want to do, and hopefully after tonight and next week, you'll know if that's something that you want to do. So from the CCI website, volunteer puppy raisers provide specially bred puppies a safe home, take them to obedience classes, serve up a healthy diet, and provide socialization opportunities and give lots of love. I think that was actually Simone, not from the CCI website, but just kidding. I'm wrong. Just kidding. Never mind. But yeah, so we have these puppies for about 1.5 years, and in that time, we'll do a bunch of things with them, which I'll go over in a second. But most importantly, we give them a safe home while we have them and we're training them, and we make sure that they get lots of opportunities. And I think most importantly, it's that we take good care of them and we love them. So yeah, where the puppies come from. So the headquarters for all of CCI is in Santa Rosa, California. That's where they have their breeding program. That's where all the puppies spend their first 7-8 weeks, sometimes a little bit more. And each litter grows up with a breeder caretaker who cares for the puppies and keeps them until they're sent to those 6 different regions that we have across the country. Our region is Northeast region, and it's in Medford, Long Island, in New York. And so if you get accepted to become a puppy raiser, you go through the application process, you've sat on the wait list for a little bit, and then they say, okay, we have a puppy for you. Around the time that puppy is 8 weeks old, you're going to go to New York, and you're going to sit through a super long orientation. For COVID, I know a couple of our new puppy raisers, for Rebecca and Danielle, it was a little bit different. They didn't go to New York, but normally you do. And that's kind of part of both CCI and for us to know that you're really dedicated, that you're willing to drive these 7-8 hours to New York and sit through that 3-hour, very dry presentation of, various things about the puppies, what you can do with them, what you can't do with them, what your job as a puppy raiser is. Hopefully by then you already know, but they'll go over it again. And one of the things they do before your really long presentation is they take you on a tour of campus. Each region has its campus, and they have like kennels. They'll show you the kennels. They'll show you the dorms where they host people while they're in team training and things like that. And they'll walk you right by your puppy. And then you get to go sit in this really long presentation that is usually given by our puppy program manager, Debbie Natz, or the assistant puppy program manager, Stacy Sedano. And it's a really important presentation, so you pay attention, but the whole time you're sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, I just want to see my puppy. I just want to see my puppy. But yeah. So once you have the puppy and you're driven back home, that 7-hour trip became 12 hours, and it's lots of fun, and the puppy's been screaming. You're kind of thinking, like, what am I supposed to be doing for the next 1.5 years with this tiny little thing that you just handed me and told me to drive off with? So something that they'll give you during your orientation is they give you like your first month heart guard and a couple meals worth of food to make sure that you can get home okay, and a couple other things. But one of the things they'll give you is this pretty much tiny little booklet that becomes your Bible. It has all 30 commands that we're supposed to teach them in our time, the ages that you're supposed to teach them. Rebecca's holding it up. It's literally your best friend. And it kind of also helps you, it kind of teaches you how to teach them too. One of the things we do is we go to puppy classes twice a month. But that's really more for like refining their skills and socializing them with other CCI dogs and things. And they're also there to help you if you can't figure out how to teach a command, but that book will help you a lot. And never lose it. But if you do, it's okay. But it's your best friend. But then we also provide for them a very safe environment. CCI recently has started doing home checks. So during your interview, part of your interview process with CCI will be that they'll come and make sure that you have a nice home, not a nice home, but like a safe home for them, somewhere that they'll be cared for. Wow. And just to make sure that it's a good environment for them to learn and grow up. So like I mentioned, we also go to obedience classes. We go to those twice a month. You can go to them more often if you want, but that's a lot for us anyway, because they're about an hour away from campus. We try to go as a group. Since COVID hit, that's not really a thing anymore. We've all been doing the online version of classes. We're all there all the time. It's lots of fun. And that way we still continue learning. Those are required, so it's not like you can just kind of say you're going to go and then not go or stuff like that. But we also try and use university resources like the vans so that it becomes a little bit easier, so you're not wasting a tank of gas every 2 weeks just to go to Richmond. Most importantly, you have to agree to return the puppy upon request. Usually this is on a schedule. They say, okay, you're going to have them for about 18 to 22 months. I know they are looking to shorten that time period a little bit, but not significantly. But usually it's on a schedule. So like Zinger was supposed to turn in November, but now they're waiting a little bit because of COVID and the kennels are full. But they could also theoretically email me tomorrow and be like, we want him back in the next 2 weeks. And I have to be okay with that, which sucks. And it doesn't happen that often unless something's wrong. But sorry, I keep hearing my voice on my phone where Zinger is, and it's very distracting. But yeah, so that's one of the many papers you'll sign when you literally sign your life away for this dog. And yeah, speaking of papers, where'd you go? Okay, there we go. Speaking of papers, we also submit monthly puppy reports to NER. They're due on the 1st of every month, and it's basically this 3 or 4 page document asking how much they're eating every day, how much they weigh, what they learned this month, what kind of socialization opportunities you provided this month. Like, did you take them to Target? Did you take them to classes? Were they just walking around campus? Different things. And then they also ask if like they've been to the vet in the last month for anything more than like routine checks. And they ask what you're doing. Are you following certain training things? If not, like, for example, if they have a high sensitivity to the gentle leader and you may not be training them on a gentle leader, they're going to want to know why. What type of brand their food they're eating, all this fun stuff. It's very tedious, but they're due every month. And so, yeah. So then we have grooming. That is something that the ADA, both CCI and the ADA requires, is that your dog, when it's in public, has to look, all put together. It can't be smelly. It can't be gross. Fun stuff. So yeah, every 2 weeks, we try and bathe them every 2 weeks to make sure that they're healthy and everything. We have to be careful not to bathe them too much because it's not good for their skin or their coat. But then we also do their nails. We brush their teeth, clean their ears. I'm staring at this picture of Zinger in a towel trying to remember what I do to him on a daily basis. We brush their coat, things like that. And then they also, yeah, lots of fun. So like the next thing with kennel, food, and veterinarian stuff, so those are all things that you have to provide for the puppy. And we'll go over the food and the veterinary costs in a couple seconds. But yeah, Zinger has lots of toys, and so do all the other dogs, but yeah. So yeah, do I have to pay for everything? Yes and no. So food reimbursements, we're lucky that in Northeast region, we get food reimbursements. I think Rebecca realized she forgot to submit a receipt by the look on her face. But so you pay for them up front, but then you submit a receipt back to NER, to Debbie Natz, our puppy program manager, and they'll send you a check in the mail within the next few weeks, usually. And then, you get paid back for that. The club itself also has kennels that have been donated or bought in the past that we circulate throughout puppy raisers. So I think I have Estrella's old kennel. I don't even know who Rebecca has, but you don't have to pay for a kennel. Then we also, once you are told that, you're going to get a puppy, we as a club or as an e-board at least try and take you puppy shopping. So we take out the university credit card that we have that is attached to our club's bank account, and we try to buy like a puppy bed, like just a couple toys. We buy bowls and just a couple things to kind of get you started for those first couple weeks. And then the big cost, the veterinary care. We're really lucky that there's a clinic that is partnered with CCI, and pretty much you send in an appointment request like you do anything else, but you also say that you have a CCI pup, and when you go, they'll give you the invoice so you know how much it costs, I guess, just to make you feel really good. But all of that, thankfully, is free, so you don't have to worry about reimbursement or anything, but that is all free, so yeah. Okay, so those are the things that you don't have to pay for, but here are the things you do have to pay for. So food, of course, you do get paid back, but you still have to pay the upfront cost. Eukanuba is also kind of a hard brand to find, which is the brand that we feed our dogs that is sponsored by that sponsors CCI. So it's usually easy to submit the electronic receipt. In that kind of puppy shopping starter kit, we also have those grooming supplies. We try to get you like some nail clippers, a brush, maybe some other sort of things like shampoo and conditioner. It just depends on how much funds we have with the club. But then you also, so I know Simone did take Nye at a pet value, as you can see in that bottom little picture. But so if you do take them to pet value or something like that, I think it's like $10 and you get to wash the dog yourself, and it's super awesome. I took Zinger, he hates it. So we do baths at home. It's nice and free, but it makes life a little interesting some days. But then we have leashes, collars, and stuff like that. We'll try to get you like a puppy collar and a leash in our little puppy starter kit, but there are definitely some raisers who have lots of fun with how many collars they can own. I know there's one girl who's raising Evie. I don't remember what school she goes to, but she has an entire closet full of collars. And I will say they're all very cute, but that is more extra than I can ever afford to be. But yeah, and then you definitely want the dog to have plenty of toys. That doesn't mean they have to have hundreds, but they do need to have more than just a few, because they need to be playful and, not territorial, and have fun and just be entertained. Especially when you're in class and stuff, you can't entertain them 24/7. You're going to want them to have some toys, whether those are squeaky toys or the Westpaw toys that you see are spelling out Zinger's name. There is a list of approved toys by CCI. We're very strict in terms of what toys the dogs can and can't have. Not us, but CCI is very strict on that. So we have to be careful with what toys we buy. There's certain types of treats and chewables, toys, and things like that they absolutely cannot have. Emergency vet costs. So if your dog eats something off the floor of an arcade and you have to take them to the emergency vet at 3 a.m, Simone, it's definitely not your fault, and that's okay. Like, it happens to all of us. Emergency vet costs are a thing, but that does mean that they aren't covered. So those can get expensive real fast, and that is not something that as a club we can cover or CCI can cover. There is a way you can apply for a percentage of reimbursement back from that, because it's an emergency cost, but you have to be able to prove that it wasn't your fault, and it's not something that could have been preventable. So even then, they're very strict on what they are able to give back to you. Bedding, blankets, just more things that general dogs need that you'll have to provide. Same thing with treats. Lots of fun. For a while, we are able to feed them kibble to use training treats, but eventually they need what we call high value treats, and those are actual treats, which again are very strict on what we can use. Hopefully Simone can be more entertaining now. I'm sorry, y'all. It's been a long day.
Oh, you did amazing. I hope y'all learned about some costs and stuff. So I know we got this question earlier, but someone asked, do I have to be a dog trainer prior to getting a CCI done? The answer is no. You could know nothing, absolutely nothing about dogs, and we would teach you to our best ability on how to raise this dog. Just as Rebecca held up earlier, they give you a booklet with every single command that you need to teach your dog at the ages you need to do so. That is your Bible. You will refer to that for the rest of your life, and if you keep puppy raising. I still have Naya's. I'm like, no, it's cute. There's also training videos if you're more of a visual kind of person, available through the CCI website. I watched a few of them. They're pretty interesting. They go through like a specific what is it, like sit or stay or stuff like that. They show you how to do it with a dog. And then you have a huge support network of excuse me, of past and current puppy raisers to help you out along the way. Every time we get a new puppy raiser, we start a new puppy raiser chat at UMW. This is just so we can keep in contact with each other. Something happens to the dog, if someone needs to watch your dog, if anything happens. And then you also have other college puppy raisers across the US as a support network. So this summer, someone came up with a group chat through GroupMe, for reasons that will be explained later, with all the US college puppy raisers across college campuses. It is an amazing group chat. It is very productive. People tell you, they'll give you constructive criticism. They'll tell you they're doing a great job. They're just there for you to lean on because they know what you're going through. They know what's going on. Your friend that's not raising a puppy may not understand what you're going through or what you're feeling because they don't understand. But these college raisers do. They're going to class with their dog. They're doing X, Y, and Z, all the college life as well. And then puppy classes, which I will talk about in the next slide. So puppy class, there's two options if you do get approved for a dog. You can go to the Old Dominion chapter in Richmond. So that's where the majority of our puppy raisers have been attending. I like driving south instead of north, but that's just your preference. So the Old Dominion chapter, it's mostly consisted of people who are retired. I think we're the youngest people in that chapter, but they are also your lifeline. They will help you with literally anything. They're the nicest people in the world. They accept you into their family as soon as they meet you, and they will even puppy sit your dog if you need them to. And then there's also the Capital chapter, which is in the Reston, DC area, if you live closer to there. So this picture at the bottom is for the recent Dog Fest that they're hosting on Sunday. This is, I think, all the dogs they have in the Capital chapter. I'm not sure how they run their classes, where they do their classes, but if you were to need to go to that chapter, I would definitely get you that information for you. But right now at the Old Dominion chapter, we are working in an old fire station, which was like pre-COVID, which was really cool. They do outings to like Target sometimes. One of the guys at the Old Dominion chapter, he's a vet for horses, and he owns like a huge farm. Sometimes he lets the dogs go there just to get introduced to new animals and stuff like that. And then you must attend all or most puppy classes to ensure your puppy's success. It is a good thing just to show your face, to be there with your dog, to train, because you're all doing the same thing in class. If the trainers see something that you're doing wrong, they will come up and correct you. You may not even know that you're doing it wrong, but yes. It's a great environment, great way to connect and ask any questions. So co-raising, so this is when you are going to raise a puppy with another person. I bring up co-raising because raising a dog by yourself in college is a huge responsibility, and you have to have time management and flexibility and all these other characteristics in order to do that. So you split the responsibility with either a parent, a really trusted friend, a family member, brother, sister, whatever it may be. The benefits of this is more handler experience for the puppy. So say you're going to math class and your mom works as a teacher somewhere. Your mom can maybe take the dog instead of going to class. I think that's what Danielle and her mom are doing. They are currently co-raising. Like I said, it can be your roommate. I would have a very long discussion if you do want to raise with your roommate. That is a huge commitment, a friend or a family member. So if you are going to do it with a friend, just be reminded that each of you are responsible for financial costs and the well-being of the dog. You come up with the rules for your own dog when you're going to take them and stuff like that. This is Zeus at the bottom with the sunglasses on. He is currently co-raising with his mom. his mom sometimes takes him if he's going to go out of town or something like that. So it just kind of works out like that. If you're interested in that, just let us know. No biggie. And then everyone always asks, where can I live on campus? So we highly recommend that you live in the Eagle Landing dorms, apartments, or the UMW apartments. We say this because they're bigger than a regular dorm than you would get in Mason, Randolph, or things like that. It's more spread out. But we do make special exceptions if you are an RA. So if you're an RA, you have your own room, just as Alex does right now. So you have more room for, no, you don't have your own room.
What?
You have your own room, right?
Yes, I have my own room. But I will say that part of the reason that this exception exists is because RAs don't get to choose where they live. We can request to work with upperclassmen or freshmen, and obviously I chose freshmen, but that's like a personal choice. But yeah, it's you can't really choose, and so it's not, we try and make an exception for that, so that way it's not like, oh, you're an RA, you don't know where you're going to live, so we're not going to give you a puppy, sort of thing.
Yeah, that's a situation by situation exception, stuff like that. But we really do prefer if you live in the Eagle Landing or UMW apartments. If you're off campus, that's awesome. Make sure your home is near campus. If not, you have a safe place for the dog to be while you are on campus. Obviously, times are different right now. You may not even have to come to campus, but in the upcoming years, it will change. So like I said, to make sure you know if your pup can handle the classes all day, if you are an off-campus student and your house is a little further than, let's say, downtown or the near houses by campus, you know your dog the best. You will know them, their schedule, and if they can lay down for X amount of duration of time for classes. So for our last slide, it's kind of our application process, what everyone wonders what it is. So if you are interested in raising a puppy, I would recommend you to send us an email to set up an interview with us. We want to ask you a few questions, kind of like a pre-screener before you go and ask for an application for CCI. And then we do let CCI know that you're going to go get an application and stuff like that, so they know you're doing that. If you're approved through our e-board and things like that, you can request an application on cci.org. This first initial application is also a pre-screener kind of, and then they will send you the official application if they approve that one. This is a very lengthy, in-depth application. They're going to ask you about your home life. Who lives in the house with you? Do you have other dogs? Do you have a fenced-in backyard? If you do not have a fenced-in backyard, that's perfectly fine. You just need a long leash or you need somewhere to run your dogs and stuff like that, then you can find that. You cannot go to a dog park with these dogs, just to let you know. The application also asks you, are you in college? Do you have a job? Are you able to bring these dogs to where your place of work is or on campus? So it kind of just screens you about your whole life and your past, not too much. And then they do ask you about your involvement with the community, why you wanted to raise for CCI, and that's a huge thing. As STEP UMW, as a club, we really want you to think about why you want a puppy raise. Why do you want to do this? Why are you involved in this club? All of us have our reasons and our whys, but we all do want to help a community, and we want to change someone's life with these dogs. My second point to that is talk to your parents. Please talk to your parents or your guardians or whoever you're living with if you live with your parents. They are going to be your also main support network and maybe your main source of financial needs as well. They do need to say yes or no. I will tell you that if your parents say no, and you tell me that, there's a high chance that we may not want you to get a puppy, just because we need that agreement among the household, just to make the puppy a well-being kind of rounded thing. Next, I would say evaluate your class load, your environment, and the life events that you have going on. If you were to get or start applying for a puppy, you would get this dog, let's say summer of 2021. From here to now, you have this time to think about, okay, am I going on vacation next summer? Am I going on a cruise? Am I doing this? Like, is my class load super heavy my sophomore, junior, senior year of fall semester 2021? You really do have to evaluate that kind of stuff, because that will impact how you raise your dog, who's going to be with you when you raise your dog, and things like that. And then the big one is, are you okay with giving the dog away? And this may seem like, oh, you're just giving a dog away, like it's fine. No, like this dog is your life. It is your baby. You are going to cry and it's horrible and no one ever wants to give these dogs up, but you have to keep that in mind and goal that they're going to go help somebody in need. There's people out there that really need these dogs and that benefit from these dogs more than you do. You're just there, part of their story, part of their life, to help them get along, but they ultimately have the end goal of helping somebody with a disability. So I would really resonate with that question with you. I know it took a while for me to understand that before I applied, but I would really recommend just thinking about these kind of main points before you email us. Of course, if you thought about it, please email us. We want to know if you want a puppy raise. And then I think that's all I have. Yeah. And then next meeting, we probably will go in more depth about puppy raising. I'll get some words about puppy raising from Rebecca and everyone else that's been puppy raising. But yeah, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. And then I'm gonna open it up to questions, because I already know people probably have questions. You're welcome to unmute yourself, raise your hand, type in the chat box or whatever.
I was wondering how co-raising impacted like the application. Did it like cause them to maybe like consider telling you no because you wanted a co-raise, or was that like a plus? Or I was just wondering.
It's obviously up to you if you want to co-raise. If you feel like you're more comfortable with yourself co-raising, then we respect you in that decision. We do push for co-raising if you feel like you're unsure about it. I knew right from the beginning I wanted to raise by myself. I wanted to do this by myself, a self-achievement and things like that. But if you don't have the time, the money, of course, or things like that, I would definitely consider co-raising. But co-raising in any way is not a bad thing. It is actually a very good thing. So I hope that answers your question.
Here, I'll say something about that too.
Yes, there you are. Yes.
I actually had a talk with Stacy before I chose whether or not to raise on my own or to co-raise. I explained to her my life and like what I was like, you know, job, school, stuff like that. And she actually suggested that I co-raise instead of raising by myself, because their number one priority is the dog. Like, they don't care like about if it looks weird that you co-raise with whoever. They don't care about anything of that. They just want the dog to be as well-rounded as possible. And if that avenue is co-raising, then that's going to give your application a better chance to succeed in terms of like past the e-board interview, like into the actual application.
I will say, kind of on top of that, Paige and I, so I currently have Zinger. He's back there. But Paige and I are currently on the wait list to co-raise after Zinger turns in, because they have a no overlap policy for first time raisers. But I think it's definitely a good thing in college, provided you have someone you trust, because I will tell you, Zinger is I think I got really lucky with him. He's amazing. He learns quickly. He's low maintenance in terms of a CCI dog. He's a high maintenance dog. But it's exhausting. And it takes a lot of time and work. And so that's why I was like, I'm not raising a second dog unless I can co-raise with someone. And I got really lucky that Paige is in my life and we're really close friends. And so she filled out an application, she got approved, and so now we're on the wait list. So yeah.
Yes, it's definitely like a mentally exhausting thing. If you cannot handle that type of stress, I'm not saying it's a thing that you can never achieve or do, but it is very stressing on you, your body, your mind, and all those types of things. To answer the question in the chat, it says, besides being a puppy raiser, is there any other way to be involved with the puppies? Unfortunately, this semester and probably falling on to next semester, we are not doing puppy sitting, anything with the dogs, touching the dogs, petting the dogs. Because of COVID, we don't want the transfer of it to us, to the humans, to other dogs, and things like that. That's just to keep everyone safe. I know everyone wants to touch the dogs. They're super cute. I understand. But to be involved with the club, we do need some fundraising ideas if anybody wants to come up with something like that. We really need people to do that kind of stuff. I understand it's hard because you're like, I can't puppy raise, but I do want to be involved in the club. Don't worry, you totally can. We're trying our best to let you see the dogs in person. Of course, it is a 10 people limit to what you're doing on campus. So I would say fundraising ideas, if you have any ideas for the club as a whole to do like an event or something that you think of. If you're super crafty and you know how to do super crafty things, reach out to us. We're always interested in like making things and stuff like that. I don't know if anyone wants to add to that. Okay. Any more questions about puppy raising?
So if we've like talked to our parents and thought about it, we should just email the regular email and just say like, hey, we're interested. Do you need any other information from us before like that we should include in that first email?
No, just say, hey, my name is Emily. I'm interested in raising a CCI dog. Maybe give a sentence or two why, just to give us a gauge. And if you're going to co-raise or not, and then your kind of availability, if you're on campus, off campus, and stuff like that. Nothing too specific, just a general email of interest. Courtney, to answer your question, if you're unsure about where you're living next year, I would say wait. You never know where you're going to be. If you know you're going to want to live in the Eagle Apartments or the Eagle Apartments, Eagle Landing or the apartments, I would say go ahead and contact us. If you're going to be living off campus, go ahead and contact us. But if you really do think you're going to be living in a dorm type, either Mason, Randolph, or any of those things, then maybe wait. It's just depending to you.
This is also like a academic year long process. If you tell us now that you want to raise a puppy, you probably won't get through the entire process and be put on a wait list until after housing applications are done, or at least started, so you'll have an idea of, when you do those housing applications. So in terms of if you are an on-campus student, the timing kind of works out a little bit better. And then you can always start the process and say, you know what, I'm not gonna be able to live in Eagle or the apartments. Let me pull out of it. If that makes sense.
Yes, you can always accept, and then you can defer if you need to.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm planning on being off campus, but I know you mentioned like the like house visits. So I wasn't sure if like say we weren't there yet and they needed to like see where we lived, how would that work?
That would be something. Here, Simone, go ahead.
I'm not sure. Do you know more about that?
I would imagine that that's going to be so. The chapters, our local chapters, are usually the ones who CCI calls and is like, hey, do you have somebody who can do a house visit? It's not someone from New York driving down and seeing your house. So that would be something that maybe timing wise they would just move around. And worst case, it can always be like last minute is the wrong word, because it would be terrible for them to say, okay, here's your puppy, now we're doing your house visit, but your house isn't good, so we can't give you this puppy, so that would definitely be a situational thing that we can work around.
But if it sounds like you're interested, send us an email, and we'll work through that situation by situation.
So also, Courtney, they don't always do house visits, because they didn't for me when I started the application last year, so before COVID and everything, and they just kind of hear what you have to say about your house, and I live at home this semester, so they just hear what you have to say, and then I think they mostly do house visits if there's like an actual like concern. I don't really know how they decide exactly what house to visit. I don't know if you guys had your house visits or not, but
House
it's not an
visits
always
weren't even a thing. Like it's a recent thing that I think they're still trying to figure out, and some chapters have it down. But I will say that it doesn't sound like ODC, Old Dominion chapter does. I heard a lot of inconsistencies with that.
And by the time this new batch of puppy raisers comes in, they may decide that they've got it figured out.
Yeah.
Enough to do a house visit.
What's the acceptance rate? I know that sounds like, oh, college acceptance rates, but like, if I apply, and like my life is normal, would I probably get?
Yes, I'm gonna say that just as a yes. Of course, you have to go through our e-board first. We screen you, CCI screens you once, and then they screen you again with another application. I don't know what your home life is. I see the dogs in the back. I'm assuming you know what dogs are. You're a dog person. So yes and no. If they could say no for anything, they could say yes for things on their end. But usually, yes, you do get accepted unless there's a outstanding thing that they're like, yeah, no.
I will say with the phone interview, they used to like tell you almost immediately that they'd approved you, or they'd tell you by the end of the day. I was told when I did my phone interview that you could hear by the end of the week. So they are, depending on how much traffic they have, you may like think, all right, I've gotten through the process, now it's just a waiting game. And that's a lot of what all of this is, you do the process and you do one step and then you wait, and then you do the next step and you wait. So like that's something to keep in mind too. If you like need a decision by a certain date, then maybe that's not something you want to do.
Yes, it is a huge waiting game. I'll say the interview with the e-board is probably your easiest thing because we'll give you a decision probably the next day. It's just the CCI part. They have a lot of stuff to do, obviously, especially now during COVID. So it may be months. It definitely won't be years, but it will be months before you know if you're getting a dog or not.
Also, just one more thing on that. I know everyone has said something about this already. But it also, like I said before, completely depends on the dog's enrichment. So like maybe if you're worried about like getting a yes, maybe co-raising is the best option for you. Because if I didn't co-raise, I would have been told no. Because I don't have enough time for me personally to train LJ. Whereas like my mom takes her into the school building with him, and it's a way better situation that we're co-raising instead of me doing it all by myself. So that might be something that you need to think about too.
Yes, they do ask you about your job. Say you work at Target and you work 7 days a week and you're going to school. Maybe you need a co-raise because you need someone to be with that puppy. That puppy cannot be unsupervised at all when they are this small because they can get into anything, do anything. They don't know anything. They're just puppies.
I will say that, like, yes, they do ask you if your dog can come to work with you. And for some things, like even maybe working at Target right now, that sounds like a great idea. Your dog just follows you around all day. But your job, if you are going to bring them with you, has to be something that you can split focus. You cannot have them, just following you around all day attached to your hip and, do it working in like customer service. Say you work at Target and you're running around stocking shelves. Like that's not, even something as simple as that is not a safe place for them to be. So if you're working 7 days a week at Target stocking shelves, it's better for you to be co-raising so that you have somebody who can be with them, working with them, training with them while you're working.
And we're not saying you can't get a job or you I work at Student Activities and Engagement on campus in the UC. Don't know if you know what that is. Hey, we're cool. So I started working there my sophomore year, and I literally sit at the front desk, and I got that job because I knew I was going to have Naya. So Naya sat under the desk with me. I have to do minimal standing up, going, running around, doing things. So it's kind of something like that. Like Alex said, you can't be zooming around, talking to people, working at Walmart, Target, dollar store, whatever. More of kind of like an office space if they allow it, calm, cool, collected, not very chaotic. I know Riley, who raised Zeus, he worked in an office in DC. His place of work was gratefully and able to accept Zinger into their building, and he had his own office, so he was able to have Zeus in there in a kennel and stuff like that. Are there any other questions about puppy raising?
I have another one.
Yeah, go right ahead.
So I'm part of like a sports team on campus, and I'm not really sure if anyone else is. I was like wondering like how that would like impact. I'm assuming it'd probably be like favored to be co-raising if that's the case, or if anyone else had any like similar time commitments throughout the week and how
Are
that
you
impacted
a
them.
varsity sport at UMW?
Yeah,
What sport do you play?
swimming.
Okay. So I'm guessing that's an all year round thing, correct?
Sort of like we
Like in a regular year, it would be an all year round thing.
Yeah.
Okay, then I would definitely recommend co-raising to you. I've had swimmers that are friends. I understand the commitment to that is huge. So yes, I would definitely co-raise with somebody that you absolutely trust with your entire life, because that dog is your life.
Okay, thank you.
Because I play club volleyball. I'm not at the varsity sport level, but that's a lot lesser intensity. So I only had practices 3 times a week, and I dropped Naya off with Alex because it was just convenient at that time. But varsity sports are different, so yes, co-raising would probably be your best bet.
I will say, I just kind of want to mention that like when you're co-raising with parents, I think it's very different than co-raising with somebody at school. If you're looking to co-raise with somebody at school, they're going to be putting in the same amount of time commitment that you are while still being a student. So we definitely want to see that person involved in our club and making sure that they go through the same interview process and all that as well.
Yes, that's a great point. I definitely need that person, that co-raiser, to be involved in this club to understand the mission of CCI from what we've reviewed already. Who these dogs are, what STEP stands for, and just kind of like the basic things of CCI. Just so they kind of get the understanding, the grip, the values of who we are, what CCI is as a community, because you just never know how people are going to react to these types of things, and they may not want that responsibility, because it is like having a child. You're practically a mom. You're a dog mom. So what you want.
Along with that, Alex has a huge point. Along with, the other person you need to be in this club and stuff, they're also going to want to do just as much training as you do and just as much time with the dog and stuff like that. Whereas your parents really going to let you take the wheel. Like my mom takes him to do like basic enrichment stuff. It's like per school when I can't take him. But when I am available, LJ's with me, training, going to stores, just doing stuff like that. So they really kind of step back and they're only there if you really need them. Whereas if you co-raise with a friend, they're going to want to participate just as much.
Yes, that is a great point. Thank you, Danielle. Any other questions? I promise we're not trying to discourage you from puppy raising. We're not trying to be scary, but this is real. This are the things that kind of come up. It's your life, and you just never know. You never know. Do any of our puppy raisers have anything to say about anything? Oh, I know Rebecca lives in Pennsylvania, so if you live in a different state, there you go.
Yeah, if you have questions on living in another state. But also I would say something that also to keep in mind with the living situation is, who are your roommates going to be? Are they going to be able to, you know, are they going to be able to follow the rules? Because there are rules, are they going to be willing to have a 4-legged toddler running around the dorm, possibly going to have accidents on the floor or wake up? Not every dog is perfect the first 5 months. They have their kinks, and they all have their problems. And are they going to be willing to put up with that and have the dog hair on their stuff? Are they allergic to dogs? And that's something to really consider too, like if you are living on campus. I have a roommate. I love her. She's okay with the dog, but she doesn't want him all up in her business and loving on her as my other 2 roommates love him. So, it's something to consider when you are selecting your housing or who you're living with, is to make sure that they too are okay with it if you are on campus.
Yes, your roommates will also kind of be your lifeline. Say you have a lab in Jepson. You can't bring your dog with you. You're going to leave your dog in your dorm. Are you comfortable leaving that dog out with your roommates while they're doing stuff, or are you going to leave the dog in the kennel? My roommates were my lifeline. I was lucky enough to have them as like my other dog aunties. Like they watched Naya, they cared for Naya, they understand the rules, they understand how I trained her. I understand not everyone is going to be like that. Not everyone is as accepting as that, but that's definitely something you should take in consideration. If you do a random assignment for a roommate group, that might not be the best choice, because what if that person absolutely hates dogs and you're like, well, I have this little child with me and it's going to shed everywhere and it's going to be in the room. How are they going to feel about that?
I have another question.
Yeah, go right ahead. We love questions, I promise.
I was curious about like the other pet policies. So say like you had a co-raiser and maybe at their house they had like a cat or a dog, or maybe you stayed at your parents for a week and they have a dog, and how does that does that impact anything?
It does. So on the screener, I think it's the second application, they ask you about how many dogs you have in the house, how many cats, lizards, whatever you have in your house, snakes, and they'll ask you to evaluate their behavior. Are they dog aggressive? Are they resource aggressive? Are they, do they resource guard when they're eating? Do they resource guard their toys? They do ask you those things. Don't be discouraged by that. They do ask you. I know I have a little Chihuahua, but that didn't really impact. I think Rebecca and Alex can speak more to having other bigger dogs in the house if y'all want to.
Yeah, I mean, Rebecca has a bunch of dogs, but I have one dog who did show like, not aggression, but in terms of CCI rules, it was a big worry of mine and the puppy program managers that some of his behaviors would pass on to Zinger. I very ironically, none of them have. But like I have a pit bull lab mix and he's the sweetest dog ever, but he barks at everything. Zinger has never barked a day in his life. I'm not really sure how that happened, but like, it's things like that. They'll ask you like, does your dog have any funny behaviors? They'll ask you to list them off. There's even a list that'll kind of like give you suggestions on what to think about, like alert barking, like my pit bull does, things like that. And then they'll talk to you about that during your phone interview. They're like, I see you check this off. And, but it's all they did really was tell me to watch out for it and make sure that if Zinger ever showed any signs of, alert barking, that I corrected him for it and made sure it didn't happen. But in terms of like aggression, it's a little bit different. I know at my mom's house, I rarely go to my mom's house with Zinger because my mom has an intact Malamute. And he likes to be the alpha. And the one time I took Zinger over there, he tried to pin him to the ground and hump him. So I stopped taking Zinger over there. But like they ask you about those sort of things. And so I was like, okay, I just don't go to my mom's house with Zinger. And so that's fine with me because I don't have the greatest relationship with my mom since my parents are divorced, but it's fine. Like in terms of, you know, just working with the dogs and making sure that the dogs are going to be okay. Like that's their number one priority. And so they just really want you to be honest with your dogs about your animals, about your dogs, all the things, all the lizards and snakes and fun stuff.
I have 3 other dogs. I'm actually at max capacity of what you're allowed to have outside of, you know, the CC. I thought, oh, it's 4? I thought it was 3. I thought it was 3 outside. I don't know. It's 3 or 4. I think it's 3. It's 4 total, I think, with the puppy in program. But I'm pretty sure. I don't know. But I'm close to max. And they went through, you know, what's this dog do? All of my dogs, my pet dogs, alert bark at the door. Just always something they've done. We've worked on it. And if they know that you've worked on it and it's a behavior that you don't encourage. Now, if you encourage your dog to bark at the door, you know, they might question that. But like, that's something. Cats, they don't mind cats because they have a campus cat that they use. As long as the dog learns to ignore the cat when it's working, it really, I mean, I have birds, I have hamsters, we have horses, like we have all the pets. So it really, as long as you're aware of the behaviors you have and you're honest about it, most likely it won't impact.
Yes, we had a interesting situation last semester. Someone's dad was a canine handler for their police department in their town. And if you know anything about those dogs are high energy, high aggression. They're on all the time. They're go, 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 go. They're the sweetest dogs ever. I know they are. But CCI would not probably recommend that dog living with the canine unless the canine lived outside, which they usually do and have their own little special house and stuff like that. But if they do live in the house, it might be a concern to CCI, just because it's kind of 2 different worlds there.
So just to add on to like what Rebecca and Alex were saying, I also have 3 dogs. They bark at everything that moves under the sun. And while LJ hasn't picked that up, he does bark when he wants to play now. So he has started harassing my dogs. In terms of that, I've spoken to the trainer that I'm working with, and we're working on, you know, like treating the command and then like learning the speak command earlier than when it says in the handbook. So that just goes back to being super flexible. So like while LJ doesn't bark at the door, we don't want him play barking or anything. So sometimes you're going to have to teach some commands in the book earlier than when they say to, just because you have to correct these behaviors as soon as possible. But I mean, LG doesn't chase anything in the yard like they do. My 3 dogs are horrible. They're horrible dogs. But that doesn't super affect the decision as long as you can control the behaviors the puppy exhibits. So they also all eat off the floor. LJ will ignore it. It's just based on the puppy. The other dogs don't really affect anything as long as they're not rubbing off behaviors.
I know, Courtney, that was a long-winded answer, but I hope that kind of answered the realm of what you were thinking about in terms of other dogs or pets.
Yeah, I have a small Pomeranian at home. She's old and doesn't really do much at all, so I think we're good.
Awesome. Any other questions? Either puppy raising, questions in general, questions for puppy raisers?
If we have like more questions and maybe more specific ones, could we like possibly meet with you like one-on-one, just like not like even outside of like the initial like interview type thing, just like talk about it and everything?
Yeah, if you want to email us, we'll set up a Zoom time with all of our e-board and our puppy raisers, and we'll meet with you individually.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. Any other things? I know this is a long meeting. It was meant to be a long meeting because we need to get all this information out to you so you can think about it tonight, understand what you just learned. It's a lot. I know, it's a lot.
If it's okay, like if anyone doesn't have to go anywhere, I just want to add one more thing, like piece of advice. If you do want a puppy raise, you have to be super, super flexible because like medical things are going to happen, training things are going to happen, like all sorts of things are going to happen. Like I had to switch LJ's food over to a medical brand because he was having some GI issues. You know, I'm sure other people have had, you know, the puppy diarrheas. It's all the stuff. You have to be super flexible because if you're going to like, if you have like in your head a strict plan that you think puppy raising is going to go, it's not going to be that at all. And the puppy that you get could be completely different. Like we were lucky that LJ wasn't a whiner in the car, but all the other dogs that got picked up at the same time he did, I was told by the people I got phone numbers from, they were crazy, crying in the car the entire time. So you just can't have a plan. You need to be super flexible.
And you do need to have a car. I don't know if I've mentioned that, probably forgot to. Yes, you do need a car. That is to transport the dog to the vet. Burke Veterinary Clinic is about 45 minutes away, an hour and 30 on a good day if there's traffic and you don't go in the middle of the day. It honestly depends. So that gets you to the vet if you need to go get more food, toys, baths, emergency vet, things like that. I know Alex and Danielle were amazing and they saved up for their own cars and they got their own cars before they got a dog. So that's also another thing to think about is budgeting for things that you may not think of now, but you need later.
So I know a couple of us have meetings in a few minutes. It's just that type of weekend or week, I guess. It's not the weekend anymore, sorry. But we will have a meeting next week that's more of in-depth puppy raising, more about puppy raising itself, not just what it kind of covers, if that makes sense. This is basically part 1 of 2. So if y'all have any specific questions, like Courtney mentioned, you can always email us and we'll set up a time to meet with you, either as an e-board or as a bunch of puppy raisers, because we all have different experiences and things like that.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Alex. I'm sorry. All right. If y'all want to sign off, that's cool. Thank you all for coming and listening to our Puppy Raiser Talk. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.